Item: SCP-303. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures: as SCP-303 has not yet been known to travel beyond the boundaries of Site, the entire area of Site is currently considered SCP-303's containment area. All rooms in Site are to be altered where possible so as to have two entrances separated by a distance of 10 meters or line of sight. Personnel are to be distributed evenly throughout the facility, with available radio or intercom contact, so that encounters may be resolved quickly. Personnel who witness SCP-303 are to be submitted for immediate psychiatric evaluation. All SCP objects housed at Site since before the 6th of April 2010 are to be transferred to Site B1 at a time. Each SCP object will be transferred again to Site A once it can be verified that SCP-303 has not migrated from Site with it. Once SCP-303 either migrates to Site B, or remains present at Site once all SCPs in question have been transferred to Site A. Containment procedures will be updated as appropriate. Description: witnesses describe SCP-303 as a nude, sexless, emaciated humanoid figure with reddish-brown skin. Instead of normal facial features, its head is dominated by an extremely large mouth, which bears a set of oversized human teeth. It continually vocalizes a wheezing noise, loud enough to be heard from the other side of most solid doors. All individuals who have had encounters with SCP-303 are capable of describing it in full, including individuals who have not physically seen any part of it. SCP-303 will periodically materialize behind any closed door, hatch, or other entryway barrier opposite a sentient observer, chosen by unknown means. SCP-303 will then remain behind the door for an indeterminate amount of time. Any individual attempting to open the door or barrier experiences intense, paralyzing fear that lasts until SCP-303 dematerializes, either on its own or to avoid being directly seen by another observer. The source of this fear is not clear, but appears to be similar in nature to arachnophobia and ophidiophobia, originating on a preconscious, genetic level. Data expunged. Analysis indicates that SCP-303 is not, in fact, purposefully inducing fear in the affected individuals. SCP-303 does not allow itself to come into direct visual contact with any observer, and has never allowed any one individual to view more than 10% of its form. When the door or other entryway barrier is partially or completely transparent, SCP-303 will materialize in an orientation that leaves 10% or less of its body visible, or cause effects of fog or frost on the transparent surface to achieve the same effect. If SCP-303 is approached from a direction in which there is not a solid object or door-breaking line of sight, it will dematerialize before direct visual contact is made. Any electronic or complex mechanical devices that SCP-303 encounters are temporarily disabled. SCP-303 has made no recorded attempt to physically or verbally engage any observer. How SCP-303 arrived at Site is not known at this time. SCP-303's first recorded appearance was on the 3rd of January 2010. It is suspected that SCP-303 was inadvertently transferred along with or manifested by another SCP on Site. All SCPs on Site are being re-examined accordingly.